If you don't like the world out there, change yourself. You change yourself and the world changes. I like the one we have today because I think it's one that anyone can use without too much difficulty. Change your consciousness is not easy for most people. Think only what you want is not easy for most people. I think the one we're on today is the easiest one so far, and is one that everyone can use every day. And if we start today, we are starting with definite steps on a road to freedom.
I started with how I struck my house. I'd always started with one particular room and progressed to these other rooms. And I decided, no, I was going the other way. So I went from the last one to the first one, and I got to the first one. Instead of having all these others to do, I was done. And it was quite a feeling, really. And doing the same thing and taking a bath. And you can just you do it consciously. It's all up to surprise. Well, everything's done.
Doesn't it also give you a feeling of more freedom?
Much.
It gives you also a feeling of mastership. Instead of being an automaton, you are determining.
Well, if the way you do things is determined for the greatest amount of efficiency, and sometimes reversing it makes it more inefficient.
And
that's all right.
That's wonderful. Why should we be efficient? That's only in bondage.
Well, to save time.
See, being efficient and being inefficient are both bondages. Be what you are, and you're free. Both of them are habits, efficient or inefficient. And you see that they're both habits. Certain people like efficiency, some people don't. Both are equally victim to their habit of thought.
Well, I've seen some people so efficient that they were actually riches.
Some get ulcers too. A better habit is a nicer bondage. Make it free. Meditate with freedom. Get above the habit. If you're doing it as a habit, your progress will be very slow. If you meditate on a decision to meditate, with a wish to meditate, not because it's a habit, but a choice to meditate, you'll go far deeper. If meditation is just a habit, you're bound by it.
Yeah, but it seems like in this world where we have to hold a job and the job requires the efficiency, well then we have a problem, don't we?
If the
If
job
I want it done a certain way and I have to do it that way,
yeah, well, in that case, don't practice the opposite. There's other habits you could work on. I dare say you have thousands and thousands of habits. That today we are over 90% propelled by our habits. So you don't have to take one particular habit that would work to your disadvantage. There are many, many others you could start with. But
things that don't involve other people or other
right.
situations.
I'm just going to say, or if you want to practice being not efficient, do it on your own. You don't necessarily have to choose that one. But Marita brought it out as though that was a thing one should be. And we shouldn't be anything but free.
Well,
Now,
it seems
free.
like some of the most slick people I've seen are the ones that have to be the most efficient with everything, such as keeping the house all neat and clean, which has nothing to do with other people really. And I think there's one place where certainly they could change.
You see, freedom is a choice to do or not to do. It's not what we do, it's whether we have the choice to do it or not to do it. You're free of breath when you have the choice, but you may breathe all your lifetime and be free of breath if you have the choice not to. It's not important what we do. It's important that we are free on that point. Do we have the freedom to be inefficient if we want to be? Or do we, by compulsion, have to be efficient? See, the compulsion is the unfreedom. So freedom is the choice to do or not to do as you choose at the moment.
But the thing that seems to bother me, getting back to this job situation, is that you're on the job most of the day. There's where my problem lies. I don't feel free, so then I tend to fight it, and I know this is wrong. So,
well, the reason why you don't feel free on the job is not because of the job, it's because you're not free. Does that make sense?
well, yes, I know what you're driving at.
But there are thousands of unfreedoms in the subconscious, which give you that general feeling of unfreedom, which you attach to the job. You'll feel that way no matter what you do, no matter what job you have.
Well,
And if you go out and do nothing, you'll feel unfree. See? Because it's not the job. It's what's down in the unconscious mind. We don't feel free there.
If the boss tells you to do something unreasonable, of course this unreasonableness might be your attitude, but let's say it really was unreasonable, and either you don't do it.
Or you're a slave to reasonable, see?
Yeah.
Did you see that point?
You've got to think of your freedom.
Well, why can't you do a thing that's unreasonable?
Well, you probably figure you might lose your job.
Oh,
But I guess
no, if the boss asked you to do something that's unreasonable, you wouldn't lose your job. He's asking you to do it. You're carrying out his orders, right? So I say, well, the fact that you don't want to do something unreasonable is because you think you should always do that which is reasonable. If you feel that way, I say that's a bondage. That's a compulsion. You must do that which is reasonable. And men do that. Women don't. Women work more on feelings. They don't have to work because it's reasonable. They don't have to do something because it's reasonable. They do it because they feel they should do it.
Boy, are they
That's a big, big question.
Repeat that, please. We didn't hear it back here.
different? Why are they different?
Well, I'll answer it for you in that we were created in two natures. The logical nature that man has and the feeling emotional nature that female has. And we have to transcend both. Men have to become more like women and women more like men, and then transcending the whole thing.
So if you have no feeling about this, whether the boss tells you to do something and you have no feeling, okay, he said to do it, boss, go ahead and do it. And you have no, then you have no attachment.
If you're free, it doesn't matter what the boss tells you to do.
If you're free, nobody's unreasonable, is that it?
Right. If you're free, no one's unreasonable.
I can see that. That's kind of the conclusion I just recently started seeing. I wanted it confirmed. Seems like I was always fighting it when it wasn't necessary.
Then you can always let the boss have your way.
If I feel the boss is fighting me, I myself am the boss fighting myself, aren't I? I'm fighting myself through the boss. That is...
Right, no matter how ornery a boss is, if we have absolutely no fight in our heart toward him,
Well,
he won't be that way for us. By turning inward, we begin to discover this great being that we are. And then when we discover that and we look outward, we see no difference. There is no difference between in and out when we discover the truth. There's no difference between the spiritual and the material when we discover the absolute truth. It's all one and the same. There's a total elimination of all differences. The top state is a state of non-difference. No differentiation. But again, I repeat, the prime thing we should do is daily do something toward becoming freer, toward letting go of a bit of ego. Where the ego rises not, there is the infinite self. Anytime you're in a state where the ego rises not, what's there is the infinite, limitless, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being that you are. But daily we must begin to let go of this ego. Daily we should let go of habits. Daily we must become freer and freer until we get to the point where we see these things, that we are this infinite being, and then in one lump sum we drop the whole thing. At first it's a chipping away, doing away with bit by bit, until we get a clear enough sight of who and what we are, so that we use our will to drop the whole thing of limitation. And from that point on, we are eternally free. We start off by working out these things. Sometimes it's called working out karma. But actually, it's impossible to work out karma. It's impossible to work out things. We can only get freer and freer until we see that we are not subject to karma, that we are above karma, that we are above habits, that we are above thought and mind. And when our sight is that clear enough, we drop the mind completely, or we drop the habits, or the karma. We disassociate from it completely and are eternally free. I guess there's another most important point that should be added, that because we are in a very, very difficult era, that we need a superhuman effort to go all the way. And that in order to accomplish this superhuman effort, we need a superhuman guide called a guru or a satguru. We need a fully realized being to give us the assist and support in getting ourselves out of this delusion. And if we want to make it this lifetime, it is most important to have a teacher who is fully realized. Now, this teacher need not be in a physical body. This teacher need not be limited by a physical body. And if we look to a fully realized master like Christ or any of the great Indian teachers, any one of them can take us all the way if we will take their direction. Going a step further than that, one of the prime teachings of these fully realized beings called gurus is to show us that the guru of all gurus is the inner self. That it is the very eye of us that is the teacher, that keeps us seeking this infinite self. That there isn't a being in existence who is not seeking this infinite self, but they seek it through happiness in the world rather than seeking it through happiness by going within. But because this guru of all gurus is right within us, it keeps us searching after the ultimate happiness. But when we become aware of the path, we are much more direct. We learn that this happiness is not out there, but is right within us. So that although we use these aids, and they're very useful, we should hold on to the greatest of all aids, the Guru. Well, if there are no more questions, I think we ought to have our usual 15, 20-minute meditation.
May I, before you get into that, ask one more question?
Sure.
If, for example, I wanted a home, there's two ways. One, you mentioned to think of nothing but that home, live in the home. I suppose you would live in a home before the ideal home that I want to be, in a form that I want to be. And then there's another method that I'm a little vague about, and that is my home was really in awareness that I'm absolutely comfortable. Awareness that wherever I am is my home. That I'm omniscient, I'm not present, is the word that I'm trying to think of. Therefore, wherever I am, I'm absolutely comfortable.
Right. When we see the truth, we are at home wherever we are. We're omnipresent.
These two wouldn't particularly conflict, excepting the ideal would be to always be at home. Isn't that right? And then, wouldn't that be really a shortcut to getting to home? It manifests in a way.
You've got it forever then. If you're always at home, you've got your home forever.
And it doesn't matter where you are, physically.
Wherever you are, you're at home, and you're comfortable. In fact, you're in perfect comfort. If you need a particular place, you're limited. If the universe is your home, you're not limited. Anywhere where we happen to sit down, we should feel perfectly at home.
Well, then the thought that I need a home would be one that I would reject if they sense, well, I have to have a limited home. And I'd say, limited to what? Who am I and what am I? Am I confined to this particular place? And I have to face it then, don't I? And get my freedom within my own consciousness. The fact that is, since I'm not present, my real being is merely my thought, my consciousness, my awareness, my feeling, and stay there. This is a better way to find it.
Yes. Now, if breath is a bad habit, and food also is, needing a house over you is even more so. When you're free, you don't have to live in a cage.
But certainly
You can live anywhere in the universe.
Certainly the person who would try to get rid of breath before he learned to get rid of small habits would be quite ridiculous, wouldn't it? I mean, you got to take the beginner step.
Yes and no. If you think so, yes.
I think so.
If you think you can start at the top, you can. Because you're infinite right now.